Have you noticed more people around you who have never voted for Trump before, but they did this time around? For example, we've got one example of this woman.
I'm actually going to be voting for Trump.
Remind us, have you voted for Trump previously?
I was honestly a never Trumper. I never, ever thought I was going to do it.
It's interesting, online there are a few never Trumpers that are proudly saying that they voted for Trump this time around. Is that something you've noticed?
Yeah, look, I have close friends who business associates and close friends who never voted for Trump. They didn't really like him. It was more of a personality thing. They thought maybe that he was, they sort of bought into the fear that he might be dangerous in some way, or just not really in it for the American people, but in it for himself. And I think what they've seen now is we had 4 years of Donald Trump and then 4 years of the disastrous policies of the Harris and Biden administration. And they've just completely woken up and they're like, man, were we wrong? We want Donald Trump to be president again because things were so much better for everybody. Lower taxes, lower regulation, a thriving business environment, manufacturing coming back to the states, a secure border. All of these things just were big, boxes checked for these people.
It's interesting watching some of the mainstream media coverage of this election. The hosts on The View simply can't accept that Donald Trump won this fair and square.
I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
What do you make of that, saying it has nothing to do with the policy?
I mean, it's literally the opposite of that. Let me just say that my cup today overflows with leftist tears, and I'm not upset about that. But listen, these people tried to make everything about personality and about the fact that she was a woman or the fact that she came from, a not white background. Most people actually don't care about that. And if you look at the breakdown of voters, you will see how women voted, how blacks voted, how Hispanics voted. I mean, across the board, this was a resounding rejection of that, politics of identity like that. I think it's really all the Democrats had in our country was try to make it about some identity as opposed to what policies actually affect your, daily life. And when groceries cost 50% more than they did 4 years ago, people feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, talk to us about what this means for the people in Texas. We spoke about the border, the immigration crisis, but also what's on voters' minds there in America is foreign policy.
Well, sure. If you look around the world, the danger lurks everywhere. We have, China and Taiwan. We have Russia and Ukraine. We have the Middle East situation. So I think people are uneasy with the inability of the current administration to negotiate with these foreign powers. And I think people saw Kamala Harris as someone who just simply would be wholly inadequate at the negotiating table. Imagine her sitting across the table from Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping. I mean, like, it would just be laughable. I mean, Donald Trump has a track record of being able to negotiate with all these people. He gets a lot of credit because he actually compliments them. But the way that he's complimenting them is because they were reasonable when he negotiated with them, and he was able to negotiate, good outcomes for America. Which, I mean, I think most voters look at that and like, no, we want that back in the White House.
What about J.D. Vance? What can we expect from him?
Man, he is a rising star. I mean, is there anybody more eloquent or knowledgeable or just an even keel personality? I think a lot of people have seen these long form interviews he's done where they just see him as he's a regular guy. He came up from a disadvantaged background, but he has excelled and really to the highest levels now, and is very accomplished. And I think people see him as sort of the steady hand who can back up President Trump, but also just be there as kind of the future of the party 4 years from now when President Trump's term is over.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to watch what happens over the next few weeks, months, and then, of course, the next 4 years. Tarrant County GOP Chairman Beau French, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you.